The National Museum of Funeral History presents The Final Curtain Never Closes. I'm your host, Genevieve Keeney-Vazquez, the president and CEO of the museum. Today I have a fascinating guest, and what's interesting about it is because she preserves bugs, basically.
I do.
Today I'm joined by Ashley Worhol.
Hello.
With Testament Designs.
Yep.
And of course, you know, I was asking my daughter, hey, do you know anybody who I could bring onto my show? Because I'm always looking for guests for The Final Curtain Never Closes. And there's so many fascinating stories out there that people can be telling. And when she says, I have this wonderful guest, her name's Ashley Worhol. And the first thing I said is she related to Andy Warhol?
And I am.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
believe it.
Obviously it is a last name that everyone recognizes, and they always almost are fearful to ask because they assume it's a no. So whenever me or my dad or my mom say it's a yeah, well, me and dad, well, yeah, I guess her too, but say yes, they're fully shocked and surprised. And kind of the way that relationship is attached is Andy is my distant cousin. So my grandfather was one of the only brothers that actually spelt his last name with an O, although his birth certificate is actually an A. So we are literally the one line with an O, which has been a blessing for all the careers that I'm involved with, especially with art, because immediately they're like, well, do you paint? I'm like, actually, I do.
Yeah.
But a way different style than Andy. No bananas or, Marilyn Monroe's. I'm more of a darker artist, but with always the message of like love and light within my pieces. Same with all the butterflies and taxidermy. So I'm kind of right on that same road as Andy, just a completely different style.
That's fascinating. So that the artistic bloodline exists still today.
It does.
That is fascinating. And in your work is somewhat very nature driven.
Yes. So if I could have my own way, I would live out in the woods with nothing but trees, creeks, rivers, animals. And I kind of wanted to have that an element of what someone can have in their home. So when I first started this business altogether, butterflies have always been a sign that God is with me. So I was never thinking down the path of doing anything nature related, but I just always knew that I loved nature. And there was a situation to where I was actually in a toxic relationship, and I was outside at my parents' house and I was praying and I was asking God, like, I need a sign of self-worth, self-love, like the courage to move on and just stand up for myself. And the moment I did that, a monarch came and landed on my nose.
Wow.
So that was kind of my sign of, okay, God, you're there, you're listening. And I've had many experiences when it comes to faith, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, through meditation and prayer. And after that experience, I knew I wanted to do something with butterflies. And since I'm already an artist, I wanted to show the beauty of life after death. So I did a ton of research of who I wanted to work with. So I found sanctuaries. I found the companies that museums use. So that way I knew that whatever specimen I received, I knew that it passed due to natural causes. That was extremely important to me, as well as a lot of people who are collectors, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started this process, and it's kind of funny. The first butterfly I ever received, I thought, you can just open the wings? Sure. No. So that was an extremely expensive lesson to learn. So there is a whole process, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But after going through that, my better half and I, we actually now raise butterflies. So we raise swallowtails and monarchs. So our backyard sanctuary is just full of them constantly. We have separate habitats. So one fun fact of butterflies is even though they're technically the same species, although there's different kinds, they will fight each other. Oh. So monarchs and swallowtails, monarchs are, I don't know the best way to describe them. They're very chill. You can pet them, you can hold them, you can move them. They do feel squishy. So we literally take from egg all the way to caterpillar to the chrysalis, and then we release them. And I've always wondered if they would come back, and they do. So they'll come back and they know that they were loved here and they leave us their babies. But with swallowtails, you can't really handle them as much. So they actually have a defense mechanism to where when they feel threatened, they have these orange little antennas that pop up and they spray. So there is a very foul smell that comes out of swallowtail caterpillars, which the first time we smelt that, we were like, what is this? Like, oh, one, I'm like, okay, well, is this dangerous? Like, so it's interesting to see the difference between something that is so similar and unique. They still have their own ways that they handle themselves in nature, their own defense mechanisms. And with swallowtails, another difference, with monarchs, their chrysalis can last for weeks and then they hatch. When it comes to swallowtails, they can stay in their chrysalis for years. It's honestly up to them. And we did have one that we just kept. We kept waiting and waiting. It went through summer, it went through winter, it went through summer, went through winter, and it finally hatched. So if you ever see swallowtail chrysalises, don't destroy them because they literally can come out whenever they want.
When they're ready, right?
Yes. So they might be a little bit more of the personality of the the butterfly genre, but yeah.
So what's the average lifespan of?
It is very short.
Is it?
It is. So with any of them, in all honesty, can last anywhere between 7 to 14 days. And some of them can also be diseased as well, which that is one thing when you raise them, it is very hard to watch. Because they have parasites, sometimes they just don't go into the chrysalis with all the nutrients that they need, and you can start seeing it decay from the inside. And they will have the last migration, which was typically when they go to Mexico. I mean, they can live up to months. So that's kind of the category area that you want to be in when you're a butterfly. You know, hopefully when they pass, they just come back in their next beautiful life. But we have actually raised some of the ones that they basically have defects. So they might hatch and maybe they have one less of a wing or their wing is crinkled. And it comes to the point where if they were in nature, they would literally probably pass that same day. They wouldn't last. They would be part of the food chain for something else. Do
you have some of yours that actually will hatch and migrate to Mexico and come back?
So no. So most of ours, and we'll kind of find them afterwards, they typically live the 7 to 14 days.
Got it.
And it also depends on the time of year as well. So last year, unfortunately, with the heat, we had way less than we normally do. And even the summer, typically butterfly season starts April, March, May, and heavy June, July, and around May, we weren't getting any eggs. And I was really nervous because monarchs were actually on the endangered watch list. And last year they came off of it. So that was really exciting. So for anyone who wants to raise butterflies, milkweed is the plant to go for monarchs and rue is for swallowtails. But we've had some that have hatched that would not make it. And I actually hand feed them. I have playtime with them. It's literally like a child. So, and they each have their own personalities. So my better half, Craig, him and I, we had a little girl and we named her little girl. And it was the cutest personality ever because whenever I would come up to the habitat, she knew what was about to happen and she would do little happy flutters. So if they kind of flutter their wings, it's like a happy, they recognize you. And she would just crawl in my hand. She would be super happy. She would eat from me. She would, rest on me. And then she knew when it was time to go back to be safe so predators couldn't get her. And then we would do the same thing. The next day I would take her out to flowers so she could get pollen, just be there, watch her. And you would think something just so special, to have such a big personality is just very exciting. So long story short, butterflies are very symbolic to me.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes.
I mean, I never knew that a butterfly could have so much personality and almost be like a pet.
It can. It absolutely can be. Yeah. And
so when she passed away, do you still have her?
I do.
So she's special to you.
She's very special. There have been only a few that I've actually made a piece out of, and they ended up going to homes that I knew would absolutely just adore them. They name them, they take care of them. The art piece, it's like their showpiece. Whereas there are some I cannot get rid of.
With.
Yes, and it's very hard. I'm a very emotional person. I'm very in tune to my feelings and earth and nature, and so having the constant joy of something, but then having the constant emotional, when they pass, and it's just something that you have to, you never get used to it, but knowing that I gave them a life longer than they would have lived. And some of them actually lived past 14 days. So that also made me kind of question, okay, well, maybe there is something in nature that is making them not live as long. that personal care. And obviously it's a one-on-one time. And then I thought, well, I've always thought that the essence of love in general can make someone or something live longer as well. So maybe they experienced that energy of love, and that's what made them keep going.
It's that human interaction that's keeping them
Exactly.
going, whereas in
Exactly.
nature, it wouldn't exist because they're just
Yes.
out there fending for themselves
Yeah.
and living their best life that they know that they can, and then their cycle has come to
Yep.
an end.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I've kept a lot of them, and I haven't decided if I was going to do an art piece, or honestly, I just have them in my art room on a shelf. So that way they're just kind of still with me. But they have their own personalities. You know, most butterflies, if you ever do have the opportunity to hold one, you don't want to touch their wings as much as possible. But a lot of times if you kind of go under their underbelly, they'll actually land or crawl on you. And it got to the point to where we would put our hand in and they would just come. So it's not even like trying anymore. They just, here you are, here I am.
Interesting. You know, I took my grandkids to the Museum of Natural Science
Yes.
where they have the big butterfly exhibit
Yes.
and stuff. And I, you know, you've got these beautiful creatures that are just dancing around in the air. And I took my grandsons, my grandkids, and
Right.
we went in there, and one of my grandsons is petrified of the butterflies, and I'm trying to get him to understand the beauty in the creature, and that it's
Yes.
not going to harm him, and it's okay. But there's just I guess the flutter of their wings,
Right.
the unknown of what they might do is what fears him.
Right.
But I found it to be interesting. I would have never thought in my life that anyone would be afraid of a butterfly.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple kids come to my booth at vendor shows that are scared of butterflies or scared of bugs or anything. And it's funny because when you actually come up to my booth, I kind of look like a mini museum because I have stones, I have all of these artifacts, fossils. And it was interesting because they got to see it when it's not moving, you know, so the parent allowed them to kind of take closer looks and see the beautiful colors. And I think it kind of helped them in realizing maybe they're not as scary in person. I mean, it's not fluttering, but it's interesting, you know, when you have like the vendor shows that you guys are providing, you know, this is an atmosphere of learning and experience, and for kids to really have the knowledge that they might not really get to have out there compared to seeing something live or, you know, in person.
Yeah. So you were mentioning the vendor shows.
Yes.
So for our listeners, Ashley will be one of our vendors at our upcoming Witches Brew, which is a night market here at the museum, where we get to really reach out to the community and to the artisans in our community to bring forth their talent in a booth and show their work and be able to share it with the patrons and visitors for the market. Unfortunately, our Witches Brew that's coming up on October 11th has already been sold out.
That is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
We're very excited to know that people really want to come out and support the community.
Yes.
So it's community giving back to community, and that's what I really love. It's just a good show of everyone just coming together and showcasing the many talents that are going to be on display. But if you don't get a chance to come to the Witches Brew, we hope that people can come and see you at the Dia de los Muertos market that we're having on November 1st. Since the Witches Brew sold out, we created a secondary market so that everybody gets a chance to come in and see the wonderful things and see Ashley and her wonderful work with the butterflies. So we're talking a little bit about we've talked about the life cycle of the butterfly. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the preparation, or is it taxidermying the butterfly, or what do you call it technically?
I like to say taxidermy because it is a specimen that you still have to work with. Now, I don't think I'd have the heart to work with like large animals. I cried when it was, you know, a science class and we had to dissect a pig. So I can only imagine going with the larger specimens, which I did do some research though, which I do know some interesting facts when it does come to that though. But with the butterflies, like I said, my first experience, I thought you could just open them. Nope, case. There is a process. So with butterflies, it's actually more freezing. So they preserve themselves, which is very interesting because their colors always remain, which you would think something over time would start to decay, colors would fade, and that's not the case. So one thing that I do when I first started, and every artist is completely different. I actually have this container where you want to moisturize basically their muscles again. You want to rehydrate them so it relaxes their muscles, because majority of butterflies, when they pass, their wings will close and then their feet itself will actually fold in together. So if you see a butterfly on the ground and you notice that they've passed, or they're in the passing.
That's what you're interpreting as the freezing.
So yes.
Not freezing temperature wise, right? But
no, it is freezing temperature. Yes.
Oh.
So when you find an actual specimen that has passed, you want to put it in the freezer. So I keep mine at least for a couple weeks, just so the preservation actually is pretty consistent. And some species are a little bit different when it comes to that. But once you take it out, that's when you have to rehydrate and re-relax their muscles. So the container that I use, I actually have just like a small kind of paper towel that you want to moist. You don't want it to be heavy in water because it can overhydrate a butterfly, and then their wings actually have mold, they won't move, or they move too much and it breaks. So there is a scientific process of you really have to kind of balance and know the species that you're working with and watching it. And so on top of the wet paper towel, you use aluminum foil, and you almost kind of crinkle it to where it looks like a grill. And you put that on top, and then you put the butterfly itself basically on top of that, and you keep it there. And you want to store it in more of like a dark atmospheric area. And you want to watch it, because some butterflies, maybe 24 hours, they're good. Some, it could take a week. And when you get into larger butterflies like atlas moths or bird wings, their muscles are so intense and so structurally sound to where you have to be very careful, because if you don't do it enough, it's going to break.
Wow.
Yes. And so once you have it to where you can kind of move it a little bit, and every artist is also different when it comes to this. A lot of people use styrofoam that has kind of like this cut indentation in the middle so the body of the butterfly sits. And then they use little pins where you can actually move the wings how you want them to be, and they pin it to where it stays that way. And so same thing, you have to let the butterfly just run its course of, okay, this is how my body is going to be. This is where it's going to stay.
You have to allow the butterfly the opportunity to kind of relax post-mortem.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so with me, I actually don't use pins. I use a wooden kind of slate that has that same cut in the middle so the body lasts or stays there. And I actually use kind of these glass squares to where instead of pinning where I want it to be, I just kind of let them rest on it. So the weight of it holds it down to where I want it to be that way too. So there's a lot of different processes on how you want to do it. But I mean, something so fragile and delicate, I mean, any artist can tell you the moment you start, you're like, oh, please. Like, oh, okay, this way. Okay, perfect. So
how many unfortunate butterflies don't make it to the art piece?
Oh, I use everything.
I
use everything. Oh. So if for some reason something does break, I will have it part of a imperfect collection, because I don't want to waste anything. And honestly, sometimes I feel like when they are in that perfect position, not that it's not as meaningful, but it just kind of shows life in general. Like, not everything always goes the way that we want to go, but it doesn't make them less beautiful. Exactly. So I use everything.
Yes, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's
correct?
exactly right. Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
So what's your general art piece? 1 butterfly, 10 butterflies?
So I have made hundreds. And I have actually made massive moss pieces that incorporate butterflies as well. So typically with my butterfly pieces, I do them in shadow boxes. So that way, there's glass. If you have kids, they're not trying to touch them.
Right.
But I have done some open-end, massive art pieces with them as well. The biggest thing I would say, if someone has something like that, just don't keep it in the bathroom, because humidity will actually affect the wings, even if you have an art piece. So that is something good to know if you are a buyer. Most shows, I typically have a collection anywhere between 20 to 30. And then one of the collections I'm working on now, ironically, is incorporating how bugs and butterflies actually resemble the human body. So a lot of the backgrounds I use actually come from old medical books. And so it shows the veins. And so I'll show how a leaf bug, looks like they have veins on their body. So it kind of really shows that we are way more connected than people realize. There are stick bugs out there that look like leaves. It's just everything has a purpose in life. And I just think it's very interesting that there are so many elements that we are connected to.
So do you only use butterflies, or are you going into more different type of insects?
I am going into more different types of insects because those are more the same, freezing process compared to how butterflies are. That's where I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But I have been interested, in kind of learning more because I did the Science Museum like you did, and they actually have a oddities and curiosities.
Yes, I
part.
saw that.
Yes, which I was so excited.
Yes.
And they have these large, beautiful creatures, and you see them posed, and I'm like, how did they get that animal in that position? Because I know that there is like a draining process, there's a skinning process. And I just assumed in large animals, they stuff them similar to some of the smaller ones when it comes to taxidermy. And when I started researching, I didn't realize this. Now, I'm sure some are in that category, but I did find some information where a lot of the times they take the skin, they have that preserving process, but then they actually create a mannequin or a mold of the animal. And so what they ended up doing is that's how they put them in these unique positions, running, one leg up that you see in these museums. And then they take that skin, they put it back, they smooth out all the imperfections, and then they have an artist come in that basically does touch-ups to make it look realistic as possible, and then they ship it. So now when I go back to the museum, I didn't really comprehend that those are actually underneath molds or mannequins. I thought that was the actual animal. It's just,
I did too.
It's basically the skin. Yeah. So, that gave me maybe a little bit more comfort, but
yeah, exactly.
But I thought that was just very fascinating because I never thought of taxidermy in that way, but now it makes way more sense because
I always thought taxidermy was just a
stuffed
different level of embalming. To
exactly,
some
and some do that.
Yeah.
There are different ways you can go about it, but I've always wondered, like I said, with the positioning now it makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly. So now you know how they position the animals.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I was like you. I thought they just kind of like remove the organs from the animal so that there's no decay or decomposition that's going on, and then perhaps just kind of embalm the inside of the body and get it to preserve, and then dry it out, and then so you still have the body, which is not the innards of the animal anymore, and then they sew it all back together. You put some stuffing in it for so that it doesn't collapse, and then sew it all back up. That's my imagination, interpreting taxidermy without any research. That's just
right. And that's what mine was.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, with more like smaller animals, that is exactly what they do. And they either go through the back or they go through the stomach, and they either sew it back or they staple it back. But yeah, after seeing more of the larger ones, I was like, well, this is very interesting.
Yeah. So they must have to use like a lightweight foam or something so that the larger animals aren't as heavy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
That is so cool. Wow. So I think, so how long have you been doing this?
So full-time, 5 years.
Wow.
Before this, so I'm also a musician, a film composer, and before anything art, well, I've always done art. My degree is actually music composition, and I'm a trained opera singer. But I was a tennis pro, and so the art and the music was kind of, what I did on weekends, here and there when I can. And I had a knee injury that forced me to do art and music full-time, which is incredibly scary because as an artist, you're basically relying on other people to spend their hard earnings, hard work, and you never know when your next paycheck's coming. But I kind of took that leap of faith, and I was like, okay, God, well, like, this is what I've been wanting to do. Now, I wish the pain would have been removed, but that's fine. And I leaped into it. I just kind of dove right in. And I've been doing it 5 years. I've traveled all over the United States. I've partnered with tattoo conventions. I've partnered with Comic Cons, horror conventions, showcasing, because horror conventions, they love taxidermy. And so do tattoo artists. They actually have a lot of my pieces in their studios. Wow. So I've been very blessed to be able to showcase all of these. And, on the occasion, you'll have someone that's like, is that something dead? I'm like, yes, it is. Yeah. And it is beautiful.
Yes, exactly. We find beauty in death.
Yes. And you have to, you have to.
Well, if you think about it, so many times people don't think about it, but they do subconsciously, or maybe they just don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But, death is a part of life.
Absolutely.
We will all succumb to death one day. We all experience death to some facet.
Yes.
But even it just goes to show that animals also, they die. Their seasons are much shorter. Their lives are much shorter than ours. But everything, even plants, they live and they die, and then they live again. It's just interesting to see that. So in the butterfly, we always say in the world of death and grieving, they always say that the butterfly is a messenger from a loved one who has passed away. So here at the museum, or even in the work that I do as a palliative nurse, our butterflies are very symbolic. We have a room at the hospital, and we call it the butterfly room. It's a room where the families can just it's like a living room setting where families can go and sit and just get a break from their loved one who's, just down the hall passing away. But they can just get away for a little bit.
Right.
But again, the butterflies are very symbolic in many ways. We as human beings, we exist within our body, and then we transition when we die. And some people believe we get our angel wings and we ascend into heaven. But we, like the butterfly, we have a transition. The butterfly is from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and we are a human into our spirit world. So there's a lot of symbolism there.
Yes.
And then, like I was saying before, they believe, like, if you see a butterfly in your garden or in your yard, that it's a message being sent from somebody who's passed. So it's interesting. So can you elaborate in more on the symbolism of the butterfly?
Yes. So I am extremely spiritual. I am someone that asks signs from my angels on a daily basis. And I see butterflies literally every single day. On my way here, I saw a yellow butterfly. Aww. And when I taught tennis, I used to tell all of my coworkers, if I'm on the court with you, you'll see a butterfly. And they didn't believe me. Every lesson, there was a butterfly. And so it's one of those things where we all have this energy to where we can interact with whomever we wish. And I've gotten to the point now to where when I speak to my angels, I will ask them for a specific color for an answer, and I receive it. And what's very interesting, a story in regards to that, is when Craig and I were trying to buy our first home. I'm very stubborn. I'm very straightforward. Like, this is what I want. It's how it's going to be. I'm working on it. But when we saw this house, I prayed, for specific things, color and everything. And I remember one of the houses that we went to, I fell in love with it. And we were sitting in the car, and this butterfly goes in front of our windshield. And I said, Craig, what color was it? And he said, I think it was orange. And I just start crying. I was like, it's not the one. And he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, but I really wanted it. And he's like, no, it just means something better's coming. So we looked at all these houses. We went to this one. I walked in. This is home. I recognize this energy. This is where we're supposed to be. And we were currently in a apartment contract that still had 6 months. That was basically, and I just assumed we can get out of it. It'll be fine. We won't have double rent. So I prayed. I asked for these signs. I walk into the house and I see every sign I asked for. Every single one. And I asked for extra. And so I'm telling Craig, I was like, this is it. This is it. And he's like, we'll see. Calm down. Don't get your hopes up. And it was not through Realtor. It was actually through Open Door. And it was a very hard process. And we didn't get it. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm questioning my intuition. I'm questioning everything. And I went through actually a really dark depression because I'm someone who always follows the signs. They've always led me in the right direction. So months go on. It's like, Craig, this is the house. And they actually dropped the price. They were asking way over what appraisal was and wanted it to be in cash. And this is our first home. We didn't have that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have the faith. And it ended up being to where months went by. It was about to be August, and they were hitting hurricane season. It needed a new roof, all these things. So our realtor reached out. They lowered it $50,000. So now it was at appraisal, and we could afford it. And long story short, we got the house, and it was exactly when our contract ended at the apartment where we would have had to pay double rent. And so it's one of those things of learning patience. You will have what you want. Trust in your guides, intuition, angels, everything. But so with butterflies, it is one of those things where on a daily basis, I ask, I receive.
So did you receive the color butterfly for that house? And what color was it?
So I asked specifically for a yellow, if it was a yes, an orange if it was no. And so we had multiple yellow ones. And ironically at that house, it had cardinals that flew in front of me while we were walking up. It had blue jays. I walked in the backyard, a gorgeous, massive tree. And I love trees. So everything that I was just kind of asking for, I did. I always receive my answers. Mm-hmm. And another interesting thing, so we actually just recently lost our husky. She was 16. She was my shadow. She is like my best friend. I'm going to try really hard not to cry. But she was just literally everything through with me. I lived basically half my life with her. And it was a really hard struggle. The day after she passed, the next day, which of course when you're grieving, you're not really wanting to look for the signs because you're just in this distress, but a butterfly came. And so Craig was like, she's okay. You know, it's one of those things where our signs are around us constantly. And what I was getting to is with butterflies, I'd asked, we just came back from LA to do a music video, and there was a vendor show I was debating doing literally the next week because my parents already had Roxas. I was like, well, it would be easier if you just kept her so she doesn't have to go back and forth with her old age. And I asked if I should do that vendor show, and the answer was no. I said, okay, I'm going to listen to you. I don't know why, but I'm going to listen to you. So if I would have gone, I wouldn't have been able to have that last week with her. Oh. So it was kind of one of those situations of, thank you. I'm so glad that I stayed. So there's signs. So
there's the symbolism of the butterflies. There's the
transformation, the rebirth, the growth, I guess mainly for me, the transformation, but, there is, life after death. There is butterflies for me, just kind of symbolize that rebirth.
They're your silent messengers.
They are.
Fluttering around in their beauty.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That is so amazing. And you talk about listening to your intuition and listening to the signs, and I've experienced much of that myself. Yeah. And they also say that birds are also messengers.
They are. Yes.
And different species of birds are messengers as well.
Yes.
I was in a not a healthy relationship myself, and for some weird reason, I was always getting a bird knocking into my windows, and it was so frequent that it became alerting. Like it was like trying to constantly tell me, all right, I mean, I'm one bird, okay,
yeah,
but 5 or 6 over a span of like a 6-month time. I kept thinking that this is my sister trying to tell me something.
Exactly.
And that I needed to listen to this intuition.
Absolutely.
And so it was really interesting. And thankfully that relationship has dissolved. But after that relationship dissolved, I never had another bird crashing into my window, which was very, very, very bizarre.
Yes.
And then one time I had a bird literally fly into my bedroom. I mean, the bird had to go under the covered patio, go through the living room, and literally make a right turn to get into my room, and then turned around and flew right back out. And I really can't remember what was going on in my life at that time, but I felt it was my sister just maybe coming in and saying hello to me.
Make sure you're okay.
Yeah, it was very, very moving.
Yes.
I'm like, it's okay for a bird to aimlessly fly into your house.
I knew where you were.
Yeah, but to literally get low enough to go under the covered patio and through the open door, and then make a right turn into the room where I was, and then abruptly turn around and go right back out.
Exactly.
That was just it was really bizarre. So maybe butterflies kind of take that same path, So yeah. So the pieces that you create for your vendor shows, for the people that might be interested in them, are they framed pieces? They're all, like you said, in shadow boxes?
Yeah. So they're in a shadow box, and on the backs of all my pieces, I actually have labels, so it does state the species and origin, and it has my autograph as well, so they know exactly what they're getting. I do some also terrarium pieces, so jarred. I do jewelry, some resin stuff, but majority of my more show pieces are the larger shadow box framed pieces.
And do you ever do any custom pieces?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So somebody has maybe found a butterfly that might have been part of their life for a couple of weeks that they have found, and they've been holding on to it in their room, but now they need to showcase it so it stays preserved forever in time and not get subjected to perhaps getting damaged.
Exactly. Yep. I'm your girl.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know. So what's the best way to, perhaps reach out to you?
Yeah.
If they have a butterfly they want to get to you, how would they reach you, and how do they transport that butterfly to you?
So through social media is always easy. Of course, I have a website as well, but if someone wants to find me, Ashley Worhol Official is my tag for Instagram. I run my own account. I'm super personal. I love human connection. Obviously, Facebook as well. My website, you can just Google Testament Designs. Our best friend Google, she'll find it. Yes. But the actual website is testament-designs.myshopify.com. So you can also find my email address there, which is warholmusician@gmail.com. But when it comes to transporting, most of the time when I do custom pieces, I will always meet the individual. I'll just kind of tell them what to do, how to preserve it if it is more on the fresh side. If it's not, then it's way easy, to kind of handle. But I'll meet them. It's actually a really fun process. They can see all of my past designs that I've done, but then they actually get to choose everything of their own. So the inner frames, the backgrounds, if they want a exterior framed, So it's very unique and very custom.
And what if I live out of state and I can't meet you in person?
We can mail it. They can ship it to me and I'll ship it right back.
So if I call you, you're going to tell me how to package it and make sure that it doesn't get damaged.
Yes.
That's awesome to know. So, so butterflies abound. If you have a butterfly around that has been very symbolic in your life, that has a profound memory associated with it, you can actually put it into a wonderful, long-lasting piece of art that can be passed down to generations along with the story and the memory behind that beautiful butterfly and the symbolism it represents. Perhaps it's the spirit of your loved one that has passed before you. Ashley, it's been wonderful having you. I'm so excited to see your pieces, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't already have one from last year's market.
Just build the collection. It's okay.
I'll build the collection. So hopefully if you've already got your tickets to the market, please come out and see Ashley at our Witches Brew on October 11th. And if you're going to miss it on October 11th, we hope you're able to join us on November 1st for our Dia de los Muertos. And if you miss it then, well, hopefully we'll be back for the spring for our Fishing Up Daisies Market series. And if you can't catch Ashley at one of the National Museum of Funeral History's markets, then get onto her website and contact her directly so that you can hopefully get one of her amazing pieces of art in the preservation of our beautiful butterflies that are around us each and every day. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on this podcast. And I hope that you will share this episode and our future episodes with family and friends. We look forward to any feedback you have to offer by giving us a review on Apple or Spotify. And we hope that you will join us for a virtual tour at www.nmfh.org. And always remember, any day above ground is a good one.